Welcome everybody, and thanks for making the time to join us on today's webinar. We have launched a range of new employment guides to assist members in setting things up properly in your businesses recently, and to protect you in the event of an employee claim. And we have got half an hour today to discuss these. So I'll kick off with an introduction to our guest, Tanya Harris, in a moment. And before we do that, if you have any questions for Tanya during the webinar, please put them in the Q&A section that you'll see a button for below, and we'll try and answer as many of these as we can further on in the webinar. So for everyone's listening benefit, for everyone listening's benefit, Tanya is an independent industrial relations consultant with decades of experience working with small businesses on employment issues. She's been working with newsagents and lottery agents as clients for over 10 years, along with our industry body. And we've really enjoyed working with Tanya over this time, and I know she does a lot of great work with individual members on a day-to-day basis. So welcome, Tanya, and thank you for giving us some of your valuable time to have a chat with us today about the new guides and to help members understand why they're important and how to use them. Tanya, I thought we might start firstly with I suppose the problem we've been trying to solve with these guides and why we've put them together, and then where members should start first. Members regularly call us for assistance about employee claims or when they get contacted even by the Fair Work Ombudsman. So when you've been assisting members and looking at some of the problems and gaps in employment compliance in member businesses, could you tell us a bit about what are some of the common obligations that they might be missing or that are risk areas for them?
Yes, what I did, I wrote down some after we spoke. Some of the common and most frequent questions I'm asked is the employer is not providing a letter of engagement and a Fair Work info statement, and also the new casual employment info statement to employees. Failure to provide the info statements are a breach of law and penalties can apply. And so it's really important that mention is included in the letter of engagement, that the info statements are attached. Employers are dismissing employees, and this includes regular casuals, and are not following proper process and having to pay go away money to employees. And often it's because they've just missed one step. And this is where the guides will show the steps. Long service leave. Employers are not aware that employees may be entitled to long service leave, including casual employees. Long service leave comes under the state systems in all territories. Transfer of business. When an employer purchases a business and takes on the existing employees, continuous service applies, example, long service leave or personal carers leave. Employers are not paying employees properly. For instance, if an employee opens and closes the store, they've got to be classified correctly. The latest increase is not being given to employees. There was a recent increase under the General Retail Industry Award on the 1st of September. I find often evening penalties aren't being paid after 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. And also another one that often isn't paid is annual leave loadings not being provided to full-time or part-time employees. The Fair Work Ombudsman can go back 6 years for underpayments. And I had a member recently that an employee left in 2016 and realised that they hadn't received long service leave. And so they contacted the employer in 2021, and he's having to pay the long service leave because of the 6 years.
Yeah, and it's surprising how common some of these things are. And I guess what we've tried to do with these guides is to actually make it a bit easier for members to identify some of these things and also to fix them. And some of them can be fixed really quite simply. It's not a huge task. And I know, when we mentioned to members in the information launching the guides that we've designed them to provide members with some peace of mind when it comes to managing these issues and their obligations. And I think sometimes, like if I was sort of reflecting before the call on sort of the tools we've had in the past, and I know we've had, some of our members that have been with us a long time will remember we've had an employment relations manual that was very comprehensive manual that we worked on together, but it was, I can't remember, 40 or 50 pages long. It was really intensive, and just I suppose not approachable maybe is the best way of putting it for some members to really cover off all of their obligations. And so with these new tools and resources, we've tried to make it as simple as possible for a member to review their workplace practices and easily identify if they're compliant or not and find those gaps. And I know we're going to talk a little bit later about another tool that we've obviously we launched the guides last week, but we're adding another tool today, which is really very simple thing. It's just a quick checklist so that members can actually fairly easily identify some of the things that Tanya's just talked about, some of those common issues that crop up. And so you can sort of see very quickly, if you've got a whole bunch of them in place, but if there's 2 or 3 that you're missing, it'll, I suppose, highlight, why you might want to go and look at the guides and be able to assist you in fixing some of those compliance issues. But probably the most common question that members are probably asking is, how do these guides work? Where do I start? And so I was thinking, Tanya, could you maybe talk about that, about the first place to start with the guides, and also some of the guides that you can immediately adopt in your business with your employees? Because not all of the guides, need you to be using them constantly. You might just be able to read them and then adopt them. So I was wondering if you could cover off a little bit of that, Tanya.
The first guide, the introductory guide, is the first guide that should be read first. Then immediately the business policy and the employee guide can be adopted as they are. The business policy guide provides template information about business policies and procedures. It's been developed to act as a standard resource and reference point for members, and informs members about the separate employee guide. It includes information on safety, conduct and work practices, discrimination, harassment, conflict, privacy, and it also includes sample policies and procedures and fact sheets, which are really handy for employers. The employee guide, of course, as it states, it's for the employees, and it provides templates of information, setting your expectations around employee behaviour and policies and procedures for them in the business. It's really important that employees understand the expectations required of them in the business. If you don't have rules in place, you can't then discipline employees if they don't know what the rules are in the first place. And the employee should be given a copy of this and sign off on its confirming that they understand the information in it.
I thought this was terrific that you developed these, because it was so simple. It just meant essentially, if you don't have established business policies, already in your business, you can really read through the guide, go, yep, I'm really comfortable with that. You can adopt it immediately in your business, and it's really a turnkey solution. Obviously, you've got to familiarize yourself with it, and the way it links with the employee guide, where the employee, a new employee can be given the guide. They can read it and sign it, that they've acknowledged that these are the essentially the rules in the business. And you can also have, a copy of the business policy guide and the employee guide on hand at all times for employees if they, need to refer to it in the workplace. And so I thought that was terrific, that it's nice and simple, just put it in place. And then the introductory guide is essentially, the reference point, if you like. I was just having a look at it before we came on. It's the reference point for, I suppose, all of the issues that you might want to rectify in your business. So you might, some of those common issues that Tanya was touching on before, whether it's, providing a casual employment information statement, or, making sure that your letters of engagement are correct. You can very quickly go to the introductory guide and you can quickly flick through and go, okay, now I know I need to fix that. Now, which guide's it in and where is it? And in those guides, there's template letters, there's fact sheets, there's a whole range of really simple tools for members to use to solve those problems. And of course, you can always contact your ALNA general manager, or you can send an email through to Tanya as well. So if you need additional help, we're always here to assist you with that as well. So that's really helpful. So Tanya, could you maybe now talk about the other three guides? So these three guides are there to assist members as the owner to actually, manage their staff day to day. Could you maybe fill us in a bit more on the details of those?
The purpose of the employer guide is to provide information, templates and procedures for employing staff. It's been developed to act as a resource and reference point for all members on relevant obligations and to guide you on appropriate recruitment and engagement procedures. And this is where your engagement letters will be. It's really important to get it right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And to give your employees the letters of engagement, and then they understand they're a casual or they're a part-timer and they've got a certain set amount of hours each week, or they're a full-timer and work for 38 hours each week, and understand the days they're working. The second guide is the performance management guide. The purpose of this guide is to provide information and procedures for members to manage staff performance in line with relevant best practice and obligations. And this is where it's important. It'll have the process if you want to discipline employees, or if they're provided with a warning, or unfortunately if they have to be terminated. It has step-by-step process in there, which it's really important to follow, or you'll have to pay go-away money if the employee lodges a claim for unfair dismissal. And so that's a really handy guide. And you can just grab that if you've got a disciplinary issue. The leave guide, we separated that out because it includes annual leave, personal carers leave, long service leave, compassionate leave, information on parental leave. And it's really important that a lot of employers don't understand that employees get part-time and full-time employees get 4 weeks annual leave, 2 weeks personal leave. Long service leave can accrue for casual employees. So it's really important to understand the liabilities
and these
for employing staff.
And those leave questions are a really common one with members. They've got somebody who's got parental leave and things like that coming up, and that I suppose members aren't across week in, week out, and they need to refresh themselves on what their obligations are. So I think it's really helpful having that separated out. And I suppose going back to the employer guide, getting some of those things right with the engagement letters and so on, and making it really clear, how under what instrument the employee is employed and what their terms and conditions are and their role is. These things are really critical. I mean, we sort of talked earlier about giving you some protection in the event of an employee claim. Getting these sorts of simple things right when you put somebody on, or even updating them if you've already got a current employee, is really critical to protecting yourself from claims that otherwise you might have been protected from.
Just mentioning something else too, even things like timesheets. It's important to have timesheets. If you don't have a timesheet and a casual employee goes to Fair Work for back pay, they'll use their diary entries, the employee's diary entries, rather than, because the employee has nothing.
Yes.
And even if they're wrong, they will be used. So it's really important that you have timesheets. And I even suggest that the employees sign off on them. Then there can be no problems down the track.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think that's a terrific reminder for the members about some of those things that you've got to be across. So the next thing I was going to talk about, actually, just before I do, I'll just remind everybody, if you've got any questions, just pop them in the Q&A button at the bottom there, and we'll get to those at the end. So members are probably wondering, when's the best time to set this up? Obviously, right at the beginning of your business, when you're starting your business or taking over an existing one would be great. But most members obviously are already existing business owners, and so they're not going to be doing that. When's the best time to do it, and what should you do first? What's the first thing to do?
What I'd suggest you do is start now, and you can provide confirmation letters to employees so that confirms their terms and conditions of employment. Provide them with the Fair Work information statement or the casual employment information statement with the letter. Go through the letter with them, let them know the level that applies to them. Provide them with the employee guide. This way then they think, oh yeah, the employer's doing it right. They're not going to question that maybe things are wrong, because you are doing it right. And then read the performance management guide, the employer guide and the leave guide, and the business policy guide you can adopt straight away, as well as the employee guide, providing it to the employee. Just make sure that the employee signs off on the engagement letter and the employee guide, and that you give them a copy back of it.
Yeah, no, I think that's terrific, and I think I think obviously, you know, we want members to actually download the guides and read the guides. That's the first starting point, I think, to understanding your obligations. But you touched on there the business policy guide and the employee guide. They're the ones that, you know, simple tick off the list. You can, you know, read them, adopt them, get your employees to sign them, and then move on to those, I suppose, those more granular things about making sure that you've got proper letters of engagement and those sorts of things. And we were going to talk a little bit today about another tool that we're going to be adding to the website today, which is a really simple checklist tool. So basically it's got on it, it's just a one pager, and it's got on it a list of some of those things that Tanya touched on that are common issues, and I'll just quickly read through them. So it's, you know, do you provide letters of engagement for each employee that clearly outline their roles and responsibilities? Do you provide a fair work information statement to every employee? Do you provide casual employment information statement to every employee? Do you provide casual conversion offers at regular intervals if you employ 15 or more employees? Do you provide timesheets that include starting and finishing times and details of breaks? Do you provide pay slips that clearly outline penalty rates, allowances, e.g., you know, laundry allowances, those sorts of things? And lastly, do you provide your employees with that list of business policies and guidance on common questions about the expectations you have on their employment and procedures for things like leave rosters and breaks and work health and safety and those sorts of things? And so if you can answer, you know, 5 of those and not the other 2, I think it gives you an idea of, okay, what some of the gaps are, and you can go to the guides and find answers to how to quickly and fairly simply and comprehensively close off any of those gaps. So I think that's everything to run through the guides today. But I wanted to say thanks, Tanya. It's been great to talk with you about some of your insights on the guides and common compliance problems members might be experiencing. I think they're a great new tool. They're much easier to follow than the previous tools that we had, and they make understanding this complex area much easier. For any members that don't know, Tanya's also a regular contributor to our channel magazine and our newsletter, so look out for her excellent content there as well. But I also wanted to quickly remind members, because there's so many changes that occur, and you know, we have our newsletters every week as well as news flashes, and you know, virtually every week we have information about different IR issues or changes that occur. And so recently we've initiated a new idea of having a regular employment summary. So you might have seen recently, I think we did one in September and again in October. We'll be doing another one in November, which is an email that comes out sort of earlier in the week, and it's a summary of all of the articles that Tanya's put together in the various newsletters, because I know, you know, your time is really precious, and it's difficult to read through all of the information that we get in our EDMs, especially lately with COVID. There's been just so much overwhelming amount of information to update members on. So look out for those employment summary emails, because they're really important. You can print them out, and they're just an easy way of just going, yep, I've done that. Yeah, I've checked, you know, there's been that wage increase. I've checked that I've done that, you know. There've been a range of different changes recently. So look out for those. They're a really useful tool. And we'll also be putting a link to the most recent one in the bottom of our EDMs from now on. So if you've missed it, you're looking for it, just look at the most recent EDM and there should be a link at the bottom to click through. Also for members to access, oh, hang on, we've got some questions. I'll just quickly go back to those. I thought we weren't going to have any. Oh no, it's just Dean updating me about the summary. So all good. So for all members to access the new guides and the checklist, they're in the member section of the ALNA website, and the checklist is being loaded up today for you. And you just need your login for that. And if anybody has lost their login, please just contact your ALNA state general manager. And again, if you've got any questions once you've read the guides and you're working your way through it, please reach out to any of the ALNA team or email Tanya at ir@alna.net.au. And thanks for your time again today, Tanya. It's been terrific to catch up. And to everyone who's joined us today, thank you for your time, and please stay safe.